All right, it is the top of the hour. So, welcome everyone to Managing Government Property in 2026, presented by A to B Tracking. We've got Dan Faria and Sharrieff Christmas here to present to us today. My name is Lisa Williams. I am on staff with MPMA, and I will be in the background helping run things. But if you've got any questions, I believe you will drop that into the chat. If you don't have access to the chat, please use the raised hand icon at the top of your screen, but know that we will do the Q&A at the end of this presentation. Now I'm going to turn it over to you, Dan.
All right, Lisa, thank you very much. And welcome everybody to today's webinar. It's going to be about managing government property in 2026 using automation, including RFID and AI. Again, my name is Dan Faria, and I'm an account executive here at ADB Tracking, and I am joined today by my colleague, Sharrieff Christmas. Welcome, Sharrieff.
Welcome, and good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, wherever you are.
So just a couple of quick housekeeping items. This session will be recorded, and we will be sharing the video recording in an email with a copy of the slide deck. We will be having a Q&A session at the end of the webinar. However, as we move through the session, please feel free to enter any questions, as Lisa had mentioned, in the chat box, and we'll get to them at the end of the session. So we're going to focus on using RFID technology to automate your property management requirements. And as you may be aware, property managers today are expected to manage their inventories in a very efficient and accurate manner more than ever before. So RFID technology is meeting this challenge for property managers by providing their organization with real-time inventory updates, saving a significant amount of time and improving inventory accuracy rates to at least 99% or better, which is pretty significant. So organizations who do practice this are proactive in making their investment in RFID, which are gaining a huge advantage over their competitors who may be using spreadsheets or an old way of doing things or outdated technology to meet their government property objectives. So why don't we get into the agenda? We'll go to the agenda slide.
Bear with me just one sec while I juggle this.
No problem.
This I should have tested out ahead of time. Sorry.
That's all right.
Dave, tips on what I can do here?
Lisa, I would suggest either using the arrow button or do you have a often you have there's like a scroll bar that shows the whole forwarding number of slides. Can you just click on the next slide?
Yeah, okay. I hate to do it this way. Can you all see that?
Yeah, that works. I can see it.
Okay.
All right. So obviously, we're going to start out by talking about the key parts of what an RFID system entails. And we're going to look at the data management and autonomous options used in retrieving the data. We're going to talk about how this will improve your audit readiness and keeping that ready throughout the future. We'll look at mobile RFID in action, as well as the benefits of a passive RFID solution, and how we're going to determine what is the best performing RFID tag to use in your particular use case. We'll certainly look at some RFID tag pitfalls to avoid and why RFID is critical for an AI inventory. And like I'd mentioned, we'll wrap it up with any questions that the group may have. So I'm going to turn it over to Sharrieff Christmas, and he's going to talk about the key parts of an RFID system. Go ahead, Sharrieff.
Thank you, Dan, and outstanding job on that intro. So let's talk about the key parts of an RFID system. There are pretty much 4 key aspects that you got to get right if you're looking to deploy RFID. We've had a lot of experience with customers trying to implement RFID. They've had issues. They will think that they can start, by just getting a bag of stuff, some scanners and some tags, and hope and pray that it all works. But this is a complex, for when you look at RFID, there is some complexities, but there's also some very basic things that are easy. But it all starts with the tag, because when you're tagging assets, you need to make sure you got the right tag for that particular asset. And then that goes over to the reader. So when the reader, and whether that's a mobile reader or a fixed reader, it needs to be able to interrogate the tag for accuracy as things move. If you're doing mobile inventories, you got a little bit of a break there. But from a fixed perspective, where people want to go autonomous, you got to make sure that the tag and the reader are going to work, and being able to then go down to the next piece of it, which is the application layer, where all the intelligence is, where you're able to coalesce those tags to be able to get those into the software at the application level. And the middleware will drive that, which is one of the key aspects of the system. When you look at it, far too many times we see customers trying to deploy a system where maybe they're using RFID tags and they're scanning into a spreadsheet. And everyone knows that when you're using spreadsheets, they're not dynamically updated. There's other things that happen in the background. But if you can get and understand these concepts here, if you're looking to deploy RFID, if you're looking for RFID to make your world a whole lot easier in terms of doing inventory, taking the whole, line of sight, these key things, getting the tag right, understanding, the appropriate readers and how you want to deploy the system. The middleware, again, is key, because again, that's what's communicating to the application to say, hey, I've got this particular tag. I just interrogated it. And when the middleware and the application software, work together, and you actually have like an item ID, and the RFID tag is connected to the software, to an asset detail record, then it knows that it interrogated this particular tag. That tag is a license plate to this particular asset detail record, an item ID on a system record, and then it can easily just update it with the right intelligence to say, I've just scanned this tag. Let's put a timestamp and a date, and I scanned it also in a particular location. So let's update the location I just performed the scan, and that is where you get the benefits of RFID. That's where I see my customers, when they go from pen, paper, or spreadsheets, or a barcode solution to utilizing an RFID solution. Being able to leverage these 4 key aspects together within a solution is going to provide a ton of efficiency. And we'll talk through some of the customers that we've worked through in terms of some of the use cases in which the problems that they had, and then the problems that we solved for them. And then again, this all dovetails into from an AI perspective in terms of having accurate data. Next slide. So once you get that part of the solution right, this next piece is where the magic just happens. So as you can see below, you've got different readers, whether they're dock door readers, whether they're handheld readers, and whether you see the zebra reader here, that would kind of go over a doorway or an access choke point. So once all that information is flowing and it's going into an actual enterprise database, where the information can then be served up to your ERP solutions, with a common API, access point that allows you to kind of pull specific fields that are important to you to move onto some of your ERP systems like CostPoint, Oracle, and things of that nature. But this will allow for real-time tracking. And when we say real-time tracking, and the light really goes off with a lot of our clients, is when I actually scan an asset. That asset is instantaneously updated in the database and then in the system, so that the person who, let's say a person goes in and does a lookup and wants to know the last known location or the last inventory, they can see that within seconds, opposed to in some cases where if you've got a spreadsheet, at the end of the day, you really can't, you might have captured that, but let's say, that item moves again. And that's the one big thing that we see where this solution provides a whole lot of value. It's being able to, capture all of the information and the moves that happen. And sometimes moves will happen in the same day, but when you can capture all that, now you know where the last known location of that particular asset is. And having a solution where all this data feeds into the database, it can be served up to your ERP solutions. It happens in real time, and you're using different data collection devices. Getting it right on that first slide is key. But then here's where a lot of the magic will happen. Next slide. And I see some questions up here. And what we'll do is we're going to save some of those for for the Q&A. We're gonna try to get to all your questions. So yeah, put them in the chat, and then we'll try to go through them best as we can. We do always do a good job in terms of answering the questions. So now here's the key part. So you can't really talk about an RFID solution unless it's doing something for you in terms of helping you with the reporting. So audit readiness is always the key. Being able to feed a lot of that data that we just talked about coming into your solution, allowing you now to handle all of your reporting, whether that's, let's say you're receiving new items around the 7005 requirement, and you got to report against that, and you also put that into commission. The RFID piece of it will also allow you to commission that asset. It will also allow you to get that into the system, as well as also if there are any other additional items that need to be reported against it. But when you have a solution that brings all of these key aspects together, automation into the pie, being able to take manufacturing information, where if you're delivering end items to the government, and you got to create DD-250s, or you're moving items from one from yourself or from your contract onto another contractor's contract, or returning items back to the government, processing 1149s. All this is automated within one solution to not only give you the advantages around the RFID asset tracking and audit trail of a solution, but also the reporting. So the reporting is automated straight into Pi, and again, you've got different different departments leveraging one solution and giving you the ability to provide a solid solution around government contracting and meeting your requirements around FAR 52-245-1. It's definitely going to help you in the aspect of doing your inventories and be able to find things. We didn't even mention the pro locate piece, but I think my colleague Dan Faria will be discussing that. But again, capturing all this information and being able to do the reporting is key as well. That's the mark of a modern day property management system in 2026. Next slide. And then we'll talk about the different use cases. So from a mobile perspective, and usually this is where people will start. Very simple, I need to go out, I need to track assets. I can track the assets with my mobile. I can start there. And then typically you'll see over to the right, folks will graduate into the fixed reading section of it and really, get that autonomous, hands-off asset tracking. That's one of the biggest benefits, when you have an always-on solution where where things are moving through your facility. We've had customers like the Army utilize this solution. We've seen a big uptick in the folks in the Air Force recently starting to knock on our door about these solutions, and we're probably going to deploy a few of them over the summer. So we're getting a lot of traction here, and we're really seeing the adoption of RFID, both from a mobile and a fixed read. And then you're seeing this in some cases in mixed environments where they're using both to track things. And we're even seeing customers use At the bottom there, you'll see that palette in warehousing environments to go out and do quick inventories to make sure they understand what they have on hand. In 2025, we had a big adoption of folks using the dock door readers. So when stuff's coming into a facility and catching all that information, whether it's going in or out. But this solution is providing you two distinct advantages. One, you know the direction in which your solution is or your assets are going. Are they coming into your facility or are they coming out? That's our directional solution that allows you to do that. And customers are taking that. If you need to do a quick scan, you can use the pallet jack reader. And again, all of this is connected to our UC Web platform that is providing, again, the middleware that's driving all these tag reads and making and getting those into the solution and allowing our customers to take actionable insights and really understand and benefit from an audit perspective, because they understand where their items are and they have a full audit trail and history of those items. Next slide. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Dan Faria, and he's going to talk about some of the mobile solutions, which have been flying off our shelves as well. Dan?
Thanks a lot, Sharrieff. A lot of good info with the different types of readers you're talking about there. Okay, so this slide, folks, is about mobile RFID, and let's just talk a little bit about how this little device works. If you see in the lower right-hand corner, we have a Zebra Technology mobile device, which is an RFD 40 sled, which is the handheld part. And on top of that is a mobile computer TC26. Those two units work hand in hand with one another. So what happens is the reader will emit an RF signal, and it will hit any RFID tag that's within the read range of that reader. And we'll talk about that in a second. And what it does is it identifies the EPC, the electronic product code, which is the unique identifier for every single RFID tag that you have on every asset in your warehouse, office environment, whatever the case may be. That's very important because you need to establish that uniqueness so that you're able to identify all of your assets in the location that you're doing your inventory for. So how do you determine the read range? That gets done by testing and looking at a number of factors, such as what it is that you're marking and what type of environmental condition that those assets are stored in, whether they're indoors in a warehouse, an office environment, perhaps outside, or maybe they're indoors and maybe they're in a test environment. All of these factors contribute to what type of read range that you can get. And if you do your proper due diligence, you can get read range. The tag size is, generally speaking, the larger the RFID tag, the higher the read range because you have a larger inlay. So those are all some of the factors that you can consider. All RFID tags must be within the read range of that reader. The key point, as Sharrieff had mentioned, is choosing the right RFID tag, and we're going to talk about that a little bit as to how you go about that. Now, RFID tags can be read through boxes, like cardboard boxes, Pelican cases, anything of that nature. The basic rule is you can have an RFID tag be read through any type of a container, with the exception of metal. Metal, unfortunately, is the kryptonite for RFID. However, the types of tags used in metal surfaces has come a long way where now you can read that tag with a nice, good, consistent read range of 10, 15, 20 feet or more, again, depending on the tag you have. What you cannot do, however, is read any type of asset that's enclosed in a metal container. Just remember that RFID cannot be read through metal, but you can have an RFID tag on an asset that is made of a metal type of construction. Next slide. So not only with the mobile solution, you also may have to deal with SCIF environments, sensitive compartmented information facilities. If you have those restrictions, we have partnered with Zebra Technologies to develop this unit right here, which is the Zebra MC3330. This device is solely designed for SCIF environments. It has a fully featured barcode and RFID inventory solution so that you can either read just plain barcodes or RFID tags. It is also encrypted, so all of the data that is collected while the unit is either at rest or if the data is in transit to your database, it is fully encrypted to ensure its security. All data transmission capabilities in this unit have been factory disabled and fully secured and cannot be reactivated. This includes Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, GPS, cellular. All of these capabilities are completely factory disabled. So the only way that this device will work is by docking it in a specialized cradle that comes with the unit so that the data that you collect when you go into the particular area that you're doing your inventory in, you'll scan all your items just like you do in a regular environment, but you'll walk out of that environment and you will dock it, and then the data will transmit over into your database. Unlike a non-SCIF environment mobile unit, where as you're walking through the facility, as you scan your items, it's immediately time-stamping what it is that you've inventoried, what location that they're in real time. RFID also works, I like to call it a backwards way. Sharrieff had mentioned the ProLocate feature. So let's say you're out on the warehouse floor and you do an inventory and you're expecting 100 items, but you only come up with 99. Well, rather than just taking the unit and scanning all the RFID tags as you walk through the facility, you can take your unit, plug in the missing asset ID number that did not come up in your original inventory, and now that mobile device will only concentrate on the specific item ID that you've called for. It essentially blocks out all the other RFID tags, and using the visual and audio indicator on the device, as you walk through the facility, it will guide you to the area where the item is located and save you countless time and have everybody jump on deck to try and find a missing asset. So ProLocate is definitely one of the key features that many of our customers love and use quite frequently. Next slide. So let's talk about RFID tags. There are two types of RFID tags out there today. There are passive RFID tags and there are active RFID tags. Now, an active RFID tag kind of works in reverse to a passive RFID tag. The active RFID tag is constantly emitting a signal to the reader, constantly, nonstop. It has a battery in it. So what does that mean? That means the batteries need to be changed eventually. So for A2B tracking's perspective, we concentrate on a passive RFID solution for two main reasons. One, there's maintenance involved with all active tags where those batteries need to be replaced. Picture having an inventory of 5,000, 10,000 assets and they're all marked with active RFID tags. What you're looking for is to do your inventories and have accountability of all your assets. You don't need to have a constant signal beeping in and giving you updates. You just really need to know what is the last known location of all my items and are all my items accounted for. So not only dealing with batteries, there's the actual cost of an active tag, which is simply significantly more than the passive RFID tag. Now, a passive RFID tag, it's completely maintenance-free. It's significantly less cost of up to 30% or more. There's no maintenance required because there's no batteries. It's essentially set it and forget it. An RFID tag itself is mainly comprised of two parts. You have the EPC code, the electronic product code, which is generally for most manufacturers a 24-character number, and every one of those numbers are unique. Each tag, I want you to think of an RFID tag as like a global license plate. No two EPC codes are the same. And then with that is the tag ID. That's your item ID number or your part number, serial number, whatever number you want to call it. That number is associated with the EPC code, and that's how you're able to do your inventories. You let the readers do the work in identifying all the assets, and the item ID that's associated to the EPC code puts the information all together in real-time data. Now, the tag must be compatible with not only the item, but also with the environmental condition. And I kind of scratched the surface on that in the previous slide. But you want to look at what you're marking. Now, here's 3 good examples. We've got cardboard boxes, which are essentially corrugated cardboard. You've got a Pelican case, which essentially is plastic. And you've got laptops with metal surfaces. These 3 types of items could actually require 3 different types of tags if you want to look at budget as a main factor of investing in RFID. Now, we could easily provide you with a universal tag, which is a little bit more expensive, but it would cover all 3 items. We look at each individual item that you're marking or the types of items that you're marking and recommend the best tag to give you the best read range performance while also taking into account your budget. Now, the cheapest tag or the least expensive tag to use here is a paper tag, which will easily be compatible on a cardboard box and to a certain extent the Pelican cases. However, if you're marking laptops or any type of IT equipment or any equipment that has metal surfaces, and you're putting an RFID tag directly on that type of surface, you need a specialized universal tag, which comes with what we call an offset or a very thin foam backing that's on the tag, and then obviously the adhesive, so that the signal, when the reader is trying to pick up the EPC code, is not interfered with, and you're able to pick up all of your assets that have any type of metal surface on them. And that's important because, one, you certainly want to consider your budget. There's no need to be spending extra money on RFID tags if, for example, a paper tag is going to work just fine and give you 15, 20, 25 feet read range on cardboard boxes, and the same thing for Pelican cases. Now, Pelican cases are a great example of storing items in the case and being able to read those items without having to open up the Pelican case. So picture the old way of doing things. You know, you're not using RFID technology, and you've got items within an item, items within a pellet case or box or whatever. You have to open them up, physically count each one, and make your notation. As opposed to just using RFID technology, you take your mobile unit, you just scan the Pelican case, and as long as it's not made of any type of metal surface, it's going to pick up all of the RFID tags that are enclosed in that case. A huge time savings and giving you the accuracy that you need without having any type of human intervention and missing any particular counts that may be stored in that particular case. Next slide, please. So again, just to talk a little bit about the benefits of passive RFID tags, again, keeping budget in mind, the cost to implement is significantly less than active tags. Passive RFID tags, again, require no maintenance. Really, all you're doing is you're just taking that passive tag, applying it to a clean, flat surface. And that's important as well because you want these tags to stay on for the life of the asset, and they're meant to do so. These adhesives are specialized so that they do that. However, you want to make sure that the surface that you're applying these tags to is a flat surface. Because if you have even a small radius, that could affect the performance of the tag because now you're bending the inlay, which the EPC code is embedded into the inlay. By bending that, you definitely are going to distort the performance. You're going to significantly reduce the amount of read range that you typically get, whether it's 15, 20 feet. It could come down to maybe a couple of feet or maybe nothing if you do any type of significant bending. Certainly a 45-degree angle is going to kill an RFID tag, so you want to stay away from that. And the last point I want to make about passive RFID tags, they do come in an endless variety, which allows for finding the appropriate tag for just about any type of asset surface, or environmental condition. Now, in terms of the size of the tags, you can get tags extremely small. We can do just ballpark. We could do 1 inch by 1/2 inch, sometimes even smaller. It all depends on how much read range that you're willing to sacrifice. If you're just going to be using mobile units to just scan tags and you only need to be 2-3 feet away, we can get you a very small tag if the amount of real estate has some restrictions where only a small tag can be used. However, a larger tag, let's say a 3x1 tag, you could easily get 15, 20 feet or more. The other thing you want to keep in mind when you're talking about read range, You could start small with an RFID solution by just starting off with just a couple of mobile readers. But let's say you're in a manufacturing environment and you want to track WIP as items are moving through the manufacturing process. So you want to install fixed readers that Sharrieff had talked about on some of his earlier slides. You want to keep in mind of the read range of the tags. So if you have a tag that it's very small and it's only giving you a read range of, let's say, 5 feet, but you want to put in fixed readers, but those fixed readers are going to be 10 feet high. That fixed reader is not going to pick up that type of tag for that type of read range. So these are some of the things that you would want to consider. And working with A2B tracking, we would guide you through that process and look to the future. If you're looking for possible expansion, you may need to look at a different type of tag or some other different type of fixed reader where it's lower, where the read range can be picked up so that all those tags are being picked up through the WIP process if that's your particular use case. Next slide, please. So how do you go about choosing the right tag? And many of our customers, they like to discuss tags right away and see samples as a first step process, which is fine. However, in order to get you the right samples, some of the things that we will look at are, okay, what are the assets that you're going to be tagging? What are the environmental conditions? Where are these assets going to be located? Where are they going to be stored? If they're going to be stored the majority of the time in the warehouse, but they might have some outdoor exposure, whether it's to the weather, or perhaps it might be exposed to the ocean elements, saltwater splashing. All of those factors need to be considered in order to make some appropriate recommendations. And generally, we may recommend a couple of different tags just so that you can test them to see what the best performing tag is to get your read range requirements. At a minimum, we would want to absolutely meet your minimum read range requirements, understanding what type of readers that you're using, whether they're mobile, fixed readers, or both. But the most important part is the tag testing and evaluating what type of performance that you're going to get. You may get a certain performance in a particular room in your facility, but maybe a different room has some other environmental condition that could potentially affect the tag, such as dampness, temperature, whatever the situation may be. So it's always important to test the exact environmental conditions that your assets are going to be exposed to get the true read range, and not make any assumptions that, oh, that tag worked on laptops in this room, so it worked just fine, in our storage facility. There could be some different circumstances that could affect performance. So you always want to do your due diligence and complete your testing, because you don't want to get into a situation where you make an assumption that you did one test area and it's going to be status quo for all the others. It's really important to do that due diligence, and that way you can be for sure about what tag you want to use. Next slide, please. So some of the pitfalls to avoid, purchasing tags on a whim and too early in the process. A tag is simply not true. There are absolutely hundreds of different types of tags, whether they're paper tags, metallized tags, hardened tag for extreme environmental conditions, whatever the case may be. Consider all of your assets that you're going to be marked. If you're marking all laptops and they're all going to be stored in the same room, no problem. One tag is going to be great. But if you're marking laptops, maybe you're marking some other type of IT equipment or communications equipment that's going to be outdoors, you're going to certainly use a different type of tag there. Knowing your environmental conditions, I can't stress that enough, has a huge impact on the performance of the tag. What are your read range expectations for every type of asset that you're going to be using? And have an understanding of, I'm going to start out with mobile readers, but am I going to continue on with mobile, or do I expect to expand into fixed reader capability? Or is my system going to start with both right away? But the key point here is to absolutely do due diligence and complete all of your testing and all the various use cases within your facility. And again, if the use case is just one use case, great, that makes things simple. But you absolutely do not want to make any assumptions that just because one tag is giving you 20 feet read range, you're going to get that same performance in other use cases or assets within your facility. So it's important to test all those different conditions that your use case would be exposed to. Next slide. So here's an example of a use case. We had a university research facility come to us. They had a problem where they were tracking over 50,000 assets, and it literally took them all year to complete a full-fledged inventory, and it took them multiple rounds to check their accuracy. They had a threshold of at least 85%, and they were performing well below that. They were constantly having trouble passing audits, and they were using a large labor pool to complete that effort. So they came to us, they implemented our UC Web government property management application using RFID, and it completely rejuvenated how they approach inventories. They completely automated all of their reporting of all of their assets, including their IUIDs. If you have IUID compliance, it also meets that as well. They used a fixed reader for work in progress of products being built, so there was no manual tracking there. And of course, they used their mobile units to do all of their physical inventories. And while they were doing inventories, they were able to locate missing assets significantly faster in minutes rather than hours using the ProLocate feature. So in the end, their outcome was a successful inventory in a first full sweep, and that would be a full, complete inventory. It increased their inventory accuracy to well over 90%, far exceeding their minimum 85% threshold. And more importantly, they saved a significant amount of labor expense with the number of hours, which reduced to a fraction of what they had. And lastly, because they had to deal with IUID compliance, they had automated reporting to the PI. So it was a win-win all around for this customer. And next slide. I'll turn this back over to my friend Sharrieff, and he'll talk about another use case.
All right. This was a fun GFP contract. We work with a lot of them, but this one was fun because this particular customer was using everything from, SharePoint, spreadsheets, all kind of stuff in terms of tracking their assets. And the biggest thing that they, encountered was, when things actually happened or when inventories were being conducted, they go back and find that in some cases, where they actually inventoried something, a week or two later, it shifted off to a different area. So, from an accuracy standpoint, and being audited, they weren't in a good position to, pass those audits or be consistent with being able to show an auditor where their items are based off of where it was in the spreadsheet. And one thing I will say in 2026, what I have found is that, folks are passing audits in 2026 using spreadsheets, but most of those and some of those customers, they're working with us now, have been told that, in 2027 or the next audit they have, the spreadsheets won't cut it. So I know people do a lot of things in terms of, whistling past the graveyard until they get kind of hammered or caught. But with this particular customer, they were ahead of the curve and they implemented a solution in 2025, went off of the whole spreadsheet, solution, and they're using our UC Web platform to track assets, both with barcode and, we don't talk about this a lot, but it's not just the RFID aspect of it. You need backwards compatibility. So being able to use a 1D barcode and do assets and asset tracking when needed, and then also doing RFID, because you can't get an RFID tag on everything. So this customer was able to combine both, an RFID solution with a barcode solution. They also are going to print their own tags. The other piece of it is now they have access to the PI system from an automated perspective. So they're able to kind of move their information, their 1149, submit those, register items if they need to, and submit those to the IUID registry without sitting there at the PI processing area to, submit things. The one thing, big benefit they saw was when they were able to submit and register items, they actually got a return receipt saying, yep, the item was registered. And one of the reasons that happened is because, we have access to the common API and a direct connection into the PI system. So when we talk automation and we bring customers from spreadsheets, it's always it could be a combination of RFID and barcode. It could be barcode. It could be RFID, barcode, and the advanced reporting into Pi that now allows them to report against items. If they're receiving items, they can report into Pi as well. And a whole plethora of other features. But the outcome with this customer is with their DCMA audits, they are firm and happy. They're able to self-assess and show how being able to find assets using the ProLocate if they can't find it, and be able to track assets efficiently. And as assets move, the fact that they can do inventories more frequently because they're less laborious, now they have an understanding of where their stuff is, and they can find it when they're missing, and they're in a better position from an audit perspective. Next slide. So let's talk a little bit about AI and why it's critical from an RFID perspective in inventory. Because all of the models you see out there, and when you see folks adopting AI, the biggest issue is the data and the accuracy of that data. So if the data is not accurate, it's garbage in, garbage out. You definitely need accurate data if you're going to run AI models. If you're going to use any of the different models that are out there today. Again, if you don't have accurate data, you're going to run into some of those biases, or the insights are not going to be correct from that standpoint. You need data that's updated in real time. So if property management government property management is going to do any type of adoption around AI, the first critical piece of this is you've got to have accurate inventory. If you don't, you're building a foundation on straw or sticks, and at some point you're going to have issues from that standpoint. You can't have 60 to 70% inventory accuracy and expect to get accurate results, or be able to rely on any of either the predictive models or any of the things that are going to tell you how you can be more efficient in how you work. The human error aspect of it, and having the missing items and not being able to show clear path in terms of where items are moving. Within our solution, we actually have the ability to show from a timestamp perspective where an asset has been throughout the whole year, every single location it touched, and actually how long it stayed in that particular area. If it was in there for an hour, then we can capture that information. Data like that is highly valuable when you're trying to now use AI to kind of gain efficiency. And when you have those types of data points, you've got the ability now to make either some serious change, or to really breathe some efficiency into your organization, because now you've got things down to the second in terms of when things are in different areas, or if they moved, if they changed hands from a custodian. That's just one key example from that perspective. Next slide. So this is coming to the end of the RFID management overview from a property management perspective. So one of the things that we wanted to drive home is it's leveraging technology. It's leveraging technology that is on the horizon, that's new as well. But the first thing that you got to get right is the data, the accuracy of that data, and then also when implementing RFID, at the end of the day, you need to make sure you've got a solution that can really scale with you, but also has the intelligence to understand, how to make sure when you're scanning items, or items are being scanned, they're associated to the right asset detail record. you got that date, timestamps, and then you've got all of that information is being saved within the solution, and it's auditable. You can take actionable insights against the data that's being collected, and it's in real time. So we definitely wanted to make sure that we drove that point home. And then the other piece is the reporting and the not just the audit readiness, but making sure that you got it right from an automated perspective on the reporting, and that's the mark of a modern RFID system that can take advantage of all these different levers out here, technology with RFID, all within one platform, opposed to having a silo approach. Or and then if we need to bring in an API for reporting data out to your ERP system, we have the ability to do that as well. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this presentation. I saw there was a ton of questions in the chat. Hopefully we can get to those. And the only other thing I wanted to make sure that we drove home was down at the MPMA conference. We will be there. And a little thing about A2B tracking, but down at the MPMA conference, we'll be there. Pete and I have a session on Tuesday from 10 to 11. We're going to talk about RFID and AI. Also, Pete has a session on Wednesday, I believe, at 1:45, and we're going to go through a case study from a customer that we worked with in 2025 to implement RFID. And Dan, I'll let you announce your session and when you're going to be entertaining the folks.
I'll be rounding it out. I'll be doing an IUID compliance session, folks, on Thursday at 12:45. Come join us.
All right. I think I hit all the points, and hopefully, we'll give you some time back to your day, but we'll open it up to questions. If you guys have any, and we don't get to them, it's okay to reach out to us. And if you need our information, let us know. Put it in the box. But RFID is really starting to gain a lot of traction within the federal and DoD space, as well as there's a lot of commercial customers we work with as well. But we don't want to bore you with that. But we'll open it up to questions. Thank you, everyone, and we appreciate you hanging in there with us.
Thank you.
All right, so Sharrieff and Dan, I'm going to read off some of these questions that have come in. And as Sharrieff mentioned, if you want to add more questions, feel free to enter those into the chat window, and hopefully we can get to as many as we can. Let's see. The first one that I see here is, does an RFID tag contain multiple fields of data?
Okay, as far as the RFID tag goes, it contains one piece of data. That's the EPC code. That's the unique identifier. It's a 24-character number that's embedded in the inlay. As far as additional data, that can be printed on the tag where you can add additional human readable. But as far as encoding goes in the EPC, it's just one number. It's a 24-character number. Majority of the time, we don't touch that number. Some customers, on rare occasions, for whatever reason, like to have that number to be the same as their item ID number. It does have to follow a hexadecimal format, but we can override that 24-character number if you desire. There's really not any value into that other than being comfortable with knowing the same number, but there's just one piece of information, that's just the EPC.
Yeah, and the one point I wanted to make was, typically, you want that to be the license plate that's associated to the asset detail record. But again, you got to have a platform like the platform that we work with that allows that license plate to actually, through intelligent software, to know that, okay, I just scanned this particular this EPC code, and it's attached to this particular asset detail record, and now it's telling it what to do. Okay, if it's at a different location, update the location. If let's put the date and time stamp on there as well. Like, that's a modern RFID solution, not like storing all this stuff in the tag. It's having that available to an asset detail record where you have all of your FAR 52 requirements, those 10 data elements, all of that stuff, plus custom fields that allow you to then pull in additional data. So that's where it all comes together from that standpoint. I just wanted to drive that part home.
All right, so there was a second part of that question, which I'm not sure I fully understand, but it reads, can serial numbers be validated or corrected during an RFID inventory? I'm sure you can edit something, but in the database, but I'm not sure that like an RFID read will not edit the serial
No.
number.
They will not.
No, because it's just touching those things that we just discussed.
Yeah, maybe we need to take that one offline if that doesn't answer it. Moving on, what's the range of an RFID tag?
The ranges of an RFID tag vary depending on tag size, depending on environmental condition, depending on the asset. But generally speaking, you can have a read range if you're talking a real small tag of maybe 3 feet to as much as 20 feet or more. Usually, the vast majority of RFID tags, if you've done your due diligence in picking the right tag for the associated use case, are going to fall in that 10 to 15 range for read range, if you will.
So a mid-size tag, Dan, is what?
Yeah.
Mid-size tag is like 10.
Yeah, mid-size tag, you can run about 10 feet. Your larger size tags, and by larger tags, I mean 3x1 or larger, you're going to get 15 to 20 feet or more.
Yeah.
The next question is, can any reader read the RFID tag, or do you need a specific software to access that tag?
So any reader can actually read the tag. But again, and I'm just going with our system, you have to have certain requirements. That item, like if I'm reading a tag, it has to have an item ID number. It has to have a location. It has to have, for our system to recognize it, to say, okay, yeah, this is one of our tags. It will recognize it if you have all that data filled out. If you don't have that data filled out, what happens is it'll just read the tag, and it'll instead of, when we do tag reads that are associated to our solution, they turn up green. When they're not associated with our solution, they'll turn up red, and they're just like white noise. So the system doesn't do anything.
Yeah, those are considered an uncommissioned tag.
Exactly.
You have to have the tag commission entered into the system for it to read and get all the data points that we've talked about.
Yep.
Okay. And then what about the specific RFID tag's location?
So Dan talked about, these are all passive tags.
Yeah.
So it goes to the license plate again. So if I scan a tag and and it's in my system, it lights up green because there is in the asset detail record, there's a field that says RFID tag, and the RFID tag, that inlay, the EPC code is actually in, or the hexadecimal number is actually in the software, in a field. So it knows, it says, okay, I just matched this one up. And now I'm going to say, okay, now I know I scanned it and it's scanning it from this location, or within the reader. It could be a fixed reader, and the fixed reader location has that, that's the location. Or on the handheld, you could be saying, I'm going to scan supply closet 1, and you have it on the handheld. It says supply closet 1. It's going to update that now the new location is supply closet 1. It's also going to do the date and time stamp as well to show that it was scanned. So it's intentional. It's intelligent, but it's intentional. It's how the software is built. That's what I'm saying. Modern day property management system that utilizes RFID should be set up in that nature so that the user doesn't have to do anything but validate that their inventories have been done and run reports to, show their auditors that, yeah, it was scanned on this day, and we've done the inventory, and then take them to show it where it is.
Okay, Jim's got the next question, which is in relation to environmental conditions. And he's asking, how do you deal with RF from readers that interfere with, and I'm assuming he means testing equipment, in the same frequency range?
When fixed readers are installed, there's a lot of testing and tuning that's done. There's a lot of adjustments that can be done on site, or sometimes we can do it remotely. But it's just a matter of testing the performance, tuning it accordingly. If they are picking up interference, they make the necessary adjustments to pick up the particular area that fixed reader is meant for.
Perfect.
Yeah, and if it's a mobile, you can adjust the mobile as well, right?
Yeah, the mobile, if you want, on the mobile side, you can turn it up to full power, or you can adjust that power range to concentrate on a certain area so you don't get interference from other areas if you're just doing a wide, broad scan.
And one of the things that we should mention is that, like, all of this stuff that we're talking about is because we've got an app that's built for scanning. So our tracker app is connected to our UC Web platform, and that's where, you know, it's certified Zebra. You know, we've done all the testing on that, and that's probably been for the last 5 to 10 years. So all this stuff is intentional.
Yeah.
And the app works with the software on the back end to say, yep, I've done the inventory, and also to check with that database that we had in that slide to say, yep, I just scanned this item. Here's the information. And it's readily available to the users to kind of get the real-time information as it comes in.
All right.
Yeah, our software has been fully vetted to work with Zebra Technologies. We are a reseller of Zebra Technologies. All of that pre-work, so to speak, has been done so that we know that it's going to perform.
All right. So this next question asks, can a RFID tag be interrogated if it's inside of a closed container?
As long as it's not metal, it can be interrogated.
Right. Like a Pelican case.
Yeah, Pelican case, a cardboard box, you know, as long as that asset is not enclosed in any type of metal container, a metal cabinet, sometimes. What's that?
Or water.
Or water, yes, water. You know, if it's in a metal cabinet, just open up the doors. You know, even though it's on a metal shelf, it still can be read. Shipping container, etc.
Yeah.
All right. So the next question is, will the A to B tracking be able to integrate with the Munis enterprise management system? I assume that's a ERP system.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as it's not written in COBOL. I mean, we have an open API based off of JSON. So we've got system calls in there. You just have to decide what information you want to go to that system. So typically when we work with an Oracle or an SAP, with CostPoint, we have a full integration that's already ready to roll. But when we're dealing with other vendors, they use our open API. You select, you know, what fields you want. In most cases, you know, there are a number of fields that are available, but, you know, people want to get the location, the timestamp, you know, the asset owner. They might want to take the value. Like there's like five to 6 or 7, but I think we've got about 30 to 40 fields that can be used in our API to be served up. And you know, we've got customers that are doing that today.
Great. Okay, so the next question is in regards to the SCIF, you know, controlled secure solution, and the question from Steve asks, what's the highest security classification of SCIF environments that your solution has been used? And I don't know if we know the answer to that.
Yeah, I don't know if we do, but we do know
maybe
that
we can follow up.
Yeah, but we did get that environment, that particular model is TAA compliant, and I'm trying to remember that's one of our most popular solutions. Like that's kind of really got a lot of traction. So we've got, just to let you know, we've got the Air Force is using that. We've got a couple of locations at the Air Force. We've got a number of government contractors using it on Air Force bases in highly sensitive areas. But in terms of getting what the highest, I mean, the big thing they look at, we send over that sheet, our you know, the text, the spec sheet, and it shows what's disabled, and pretty much everything is disabled. Only thing that's really on there is the scanner for RFID, and it does barcode, it does IUID as well. So, but we'd have to circle back and see, you know, what environments, you know, that it applies to.
Sure. And those items that are disabled are not disabled by A to B, it's disabled by the manufacturer, Zebra Technologies.
Right.
Only they would have the quote unquote the key to open them up again, but it's not done.
All right. So the next question is, how often are we seeing that the U.S. government customer is mandating an RFID inventory system?
Frequently.
I don't know if they're, I mean, are you seeing them? Are you seeing them getting mandated?
Yeah. I'm seeing a lot of customers coming to me saying, what is the best way that I can track my inventory? I need some type of property management system. And they look at RFID as the time saver, and the return on investment is going to come much quicker than just doing a simple barcode solution. They know they got a way to get away from spreadsheets. That use case that I provided earlier, that university research facility, they had nothing. And they decided to go with RFID because it was the quickest return on investment for them.
But I think what the question is the mandate. Like I'm seeing the government, I'm seeing government, the government use RFID. Like we had a whole bunch of start and stop projects like probably 5 years ago. And now the level in which these are easily getting like just approved and done, you know, that's, I mean, I don't know if they'll ever put it in as a requirement. I think it's more or less for the contractor to, you know, handle all his or her requirements, you know, with the best of technologies. I haven't seen it for a mandate, unless
not a mandate specifically for RFID. I haven't seen that.
I mean, the only mandate I know that the government has for RFID is mill standard. What is it? 129? Those 129 shipping labels.
129
but that
shipping
has
labels.
Nothing to do with with property management.
That's different.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I don't have any other questions in the chat. We're at the top of the hour, Lisa. I think we're good to go here. As was mentioned, the recording of this session, along with the slide deck, a PDF of the slide deck, will be emailed to all attendees in the next 24 hours. And, I wanted to, number one, thank Lisa and NPMA for hosting us and getting this going. And then also Dan and Sharrieff for sharing all the information.
I'll just say, thank you as well, Lisa and NPMA. But this was a pleasure. I mean, you guys kind of hung in with us. We appreciate it. So again, like I said, if you have any follow-up questions, reach out to us. We'd be happy to help you out. But thank you. You guys are a great audience.
Yes, I want to share Sharrieff's comments, and we'll be at NPMA. Looking forward to seeing everyone. Please.
Yeah, we'll see you in DC.
DC.
Yeah, we'll see you in DC.
All right,
everyone, we're signing off. Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa.
See you in August. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you all.
All righty.